Hello and welcome to Top 10 Co-op Game Experiences. If Sesame Street taught me anything, it was that vampires are more obsessed with counting things than they are with drinking blood. Oh, and that cooperation is magical. This list is about those magical experiences you have playing co-op games, and the ones that have been awesome fun for my friends and I. These might not be the greatest co-ops ever made. In fact, I've left Pandemic Legacy off the list just because while I've enjoyed the heck out of it, our group has never played it regularly enough to get a real feel for the game. So while it's super good, playing a couple of games every month hasn't been the best experience. And as always, this list is about the stories, not the ranking of the games. Speaking of monolithic smash hit co-op games like Pandemic Legacy, let's talk about the 10-foot ogre in the tiny bedroom that is co-op gaming. And that ogre is of course Gloomhaven. For 6 months this thing loomed on my shelf, looking down at me whispering, "Soon, weakling, you will be my slave." But the game had to be shelved. You see, my regular group that I got it for was right in the middle of an epic Call of Cthulhu RPG game called Tatters of the King, and that ran for nearly 18 months. We couldn't kick off Gloomhaven until we had concluded that campaign. But now we are underway, it has quickly established itself as the perfect game for my group, because it's so fundamentally selfish. As soon as I revealed that the game has no party funds, that everyone has their own loot, objectives and secret goals, we have been playing like a bunch of avarice sociopaths. Someone jumping the initiative order to move 5 spaces and loot 3 coins is met with a round of golf claps, appreciating that really, it's not about the monsters, but what one can stuff in their pockets. Event cards have usually resulted in our group voting to punch shop clerks in the teeth and steal their loot, and no one is really acting like a noble or honourable person, and it's quite refreshing. There's no pretense. It's just a gang of murder hobos sticking together out of convenience just long enough to complete their private goals, and I love it. My partner and I frequently play co-op games together, usually playing multi-handed in games like Zombicide or Arkham Horror. We recently tried out a new game multi-handed, and it was Black Orchestra. Now the premise of this game is intriguing. You are disaffected senior Germans in the German hierarchy who want to get rid of Hitler. What really hooked us on the game was just how hard the bastard was to kill. At the start of the game we were not prepared to deal with him, and then he solidified his position and was untouchable for a long time. Then, as the war turned against Germany, support for him fell. So we took our shot and blew up the plane he was travelling on. But he wasn't on that plane. The bastard changed his plans at the last moment. So we decided to dump a hell of a lot of poison into his dinner and kill him that way. But no, Mr. Hitler had a salad on the way to the event and didn't eat his dinner. Finally, as the Red Army was on its way to Berlin, we recruited his chauffeur, redirected his car, abducted him off the street, and executed him in a Berlin back alley. The satisfaction of killing him, after all the hiding, plotting, planning, and failed attempts was superb. 5 stars, would shoot Hitler in a back alley again. Most co-op games require good communication skill as a primary component, and while you might not be able to say exactly what you can do and when, you can normally give each other a rough idea of what is required. Mysterium is a huge exception to that rule. In Mysterium, one player is the ghost and must provide visual clues and cannot communicate vocally. They do this by offering cards, like this, that point to various clues. In one game we played, one particular player got obsessed over an image of a polar bear. He was adamant that the polar bear was the key in the image, but that was not the part of the clue he was meant to focus on. But he did, and he wouldn't shut up about it, and the poor guy playing the ghost could only roll his eyes and bang his head on the table in frustration. After the game finished, he kept going on about the damn polar bear. It was hilarious how much that image had derailed him for the whole game. Watching that train wreck was some of the best schadenfreude I have ever had in a co-op game. Quality stuff. There's nothing that makes otherwise competent board gamers look like a bunch of muppets like a timer. All the best laid plans go out the window when you only have 30 seconds to complete a task. Space Cadets compounds that problem by not only having the tasks be done in a short time frame, but giving everyone their own minigame to play at the same time. When we've played, we've flown the ship in the wrong direction, put the shields facing away from the enemy, missed with multiple torpedoes, and generally played like a bunch of screaming howler monkeys, randomly banging the controls until something happens. Then one game, everything clicked. The ship went the right way, shields were up, sensors were locked, and torpedoes hit their mark. We annihilated our enemies, completed the mission, and were out of there in no time. It was so damn satisfying to go from incompetent schlubs to a finely tuned machine, and it made the game feel totally different, which was a fascinating experience for everyone to have. In the previous post I lied when I said there was nothing that makes otherwise competent players look like a bunch of muppets like a timer. There is one thing far worse. putting a timer on a group of players and making them act weird. Mountains of Madness revolves around this simple idea, a basic task where you must assign cards to meet certain values, complicated by the fact that everyone is acting like a complete maniac. But the most over-the-top moment in one of our games was when another player and I both had madness cards that required us to repeat information. We ended up trapped in a feedback loop, saying the same things over and over to each other to the bemusement of everyone else on the table. I'm pretty sure we didn't succeed that round, and this is what Mountains of Madness does to a group. It turns you into a group of babbling fools. Quality stuff, but not a game I'd want to play every week. Righto, this is a different game, even though they have virtually the same name. It's Mansions of Madness, not Mountains of Madness. The house-based one, not the mountain climbing one. Anyway, my partner and I play a fair bit of Mansions, and we've done most of the scenarios published to date. In one particular scenario, we had been harassed and harried the whole way through the game, and when the final showdown with the boss monster happened, we were in terrible shape. I acted first, taking a few shots at the star spawn that had just appeared, and doing next to no damage to it. Then my partner, who was playing Daisy, and who was injured, was just about to act. I'll cast Shriveling with a bonus dice from this item. And what happened? She rolled 6 successes and gets a favourable card that gives her more damage. And for her second action, she does the exact same thing. All 6 successes and a favourable card. The star spawn turned into a pair of smoking boots in no time at all. It was a hilarious finale for a tense game that we had no right in winning, considering how bad things had gone to that point. Yee, so this is 3 Cthulhu Mythos games in a row. I don't know if that's because I like the Mythos, or because there's an awful lot of Mythos-themed co-ops out there. This one is my old classic, the 2nd edition of Arkham Horror, and we have done some neat stuff with it, like playing a campaign where you do all the expansions one at a time using the same characters. In one of these campaigns, the same thing happened in every one of the games we played. At the start of the game, astronomer, old man Norman Withers, would go to the woods to collect a clue there, and immediately be beaten up by the Sheldon gang. Every single time. It got to the point where Norman's player got obsessed with the Sheldon gang in the woods, and would hang around the bottom of the map going back to the woods whenever a clue spawned, and closing or sealing the gate in the woods. When we finally made it to the Black Goat expansion, he ended up joining the Sheldon gang, figuring that the whole process to that point had been an initiation ritual, or that the Sheldons had simply gotten sick of beating up the crazy old astronomer. Either way, we don't let that guy play Norman anymore. The call of the woods is too strong for him. I mentioned this moment in my very first review for the channel. The game is Spirit Island, and one day I was teaching a friend how to play the game co-op. Following the normal tempo of the game, the invaders had a strong presence, and we had just powered up enough to really start fighting back. So I selected a major power, and it was a perfect draw. They had gotten strong on the coast, and I was playing the River Spirit, and it was a Tsunami card. The other chap was perplexed about how we could clean out the coastal region before they blight it. So I said, I could always summon a tsunami. And he immediately said, you can do what now? So I showed him the card, and he looked at me with a stunned expression and said, this game is awesome! We then proceeded to combine our powers, so the tsunami resolved before the invaders acted, and drowned the whole bunch of them. Quality stuff. He ordered a copy of the game when he got home that night as well. Okay, this is a 4th Mythos game. I clearly need more variety in my co-ops. That, or they just have a knack for making memorable moments. Anyway, I promise this is the last one. My partner and I, along with 2 others, did a full playthrough of the Dunwich campaign for the Arkham Horror LCG a while back. It was probably the best co-op campaign experience I'd had. The combination of solid gameplay, story, and everyone role-playing their characters made for a bunch of great memories. But the one that sticks out is the mission that we totally and utterly failed. Spoilers ahead for the Dunwich campaign. Anyway, there's this one mission on a train, and we figured we needed to get a move on and advance along the train, but we didn't expect the train car to entirely disappear. So on about the 3rd turn, when that happened, we lost 3 of the 4 characters in a single action. We'd been doing really well up until that point, and the whole "you're all eliminated in one fell swoop" was initially met with "you're choking, right?" and then followed up with howls of laughter, as our planned 2-hour gaming session ended after 15 minutes. And finally, I'll end on a slight downer. I'll tell the story of Amira from my partner and I's game of This War of Mine. Amira was a homeless person before the war, and in our game she came to our shelter on day 2. As one character was sick, she became our primary scavenger, collecting medicine and food for everyone else in the shelter. Her ability to find vegetables kept the shelter going, and she was instrumental in the team getting to the final day. But on the night before the ceasefire, our characters were out scavenging when a patrol intercepted them, lined them up with a group of people, and shot half of them dead. Amira was one of the ones killed. Shot dead by random chance the night before the ceasefire was declared. It was such a profound moment that it stuck with my partner and I long after the game. All three of the original crew survived, but Amira, the homeless woman who had done so much to help them, did not, and it just seems so damned unfair. And that's why this war of mine is such a big deal for me as a gamer. It makes moments like that. Sad moments for sure, but super memorable ones. So that's my list of top 10 co-op game experiences. It's really just the moments that happen in a game that you remember, the ones that you tell stories about several years later, the ones that you reflect on and go, remember that time you did blah? That's what makes co-op gaming really fun. It's that shared experience where one person can go off and do something wacky and you all remember it, or the dice fall the right way that time, or a memorable character event happens. And it's those moments that keep us coming back to gaming. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, like it, subscribe to the channel, and check out our Patreon.